Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Cradle News Roundup, coming to you live, your one-stop shop for all news West Asia. My name is Esteban Carrillo, and I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, Karim Shami and Sharmeen Narwani. And of course, before we start, please, everyone, make sure to hit that like button, to subscribe to our channel if you haven't. We recently surpassed 80,000 subscribers. So thank you very much to everyone who has recently joined this channel. Please, on the description below, you can also find a link that will take you directly to our Patreon page, where for as little as $5 a month, you can become a direct supporter of the Cradle. If it's within your means, please consider it. It will really mean the world to us. And of course, there's also memberships here available on the YouTube channel. You can check those out as well. So let's get right into the meat of things. It seems Donald Trump he's really trying to keep a lid on things. He's claiming there are talks with Iran, something that Iran has vehemently denied. Although, and this is just coming out in the last few minutes, Al Jazeera has reported that they have spoken with a high-ranking official in the Iranian government who said that thanks to mediation from Egypt and Turkey in particular, there have been messages passed along between the two sides. Nevertheless, from what is understood, and in particular by this Al Jazeera report, there is still, Washington is reportedly refusing to accept two key conditions that Iran has set out, which are paying compensation and acknowledging its aggression against, the Islamic Republic. They also say that the option of closing the Strait of Hormuz and laying mines remains on the table in anticipation of any reckless U.S. action. And Donald Trump also just walked back his threat, which I think yesterday we spoke about, that he was going to bomb Iran's power plants. Now he's saying, I'm going to give them 5 days, and I'm telling Israel not to bomb these plants. So, it really feels like, no, this is more than a feeling. It has been proven, honestly, that Donald Trump keeps saying these things to keep a lead on oil prices, right? We can go over his announcement earlier, the timing of it, what it meant for the stock market and for oil prices in general. And it's something that they have been doing for the past 3 and change weeks. So with that in mind, guys, what do you make about Donald Trump's latest pronouncement and, of course, what we're hearing from Al Jazeera at this time?
Well, I think his reaction, Iran's immediate reaction to his threat, a day ago, was so comprehensive and steadfast that I think he now had realized he'd put himself in a hole. He'd have to act if after 48 hours. And so he created this idea of some kind of victory, as he often does, right? Oh, we're victorious. We're winning, the greatest military, beautiful missiles, beautiful drones. It's like endless. You can't even believe somebody isn't stopping him. But he then kicked the can down the road for 5 days. Let's be honest. There's nothing more than that. Claiming that there had been negotiations with the Iranians behind the scenes and that they were going well. Well, we know what Trump actually thinks of negotiations from last June and late February. So I think he's just bought himself a reprieve, as many are saying, Trump blinked. He realized once he, put out that blusterous statement that he always seems to think that the Iranians are going to capitulate. In a way, perhaps this has worked for him in business. If you sound absolutist, okay, and angry and thump your chest, that your adversary or the person sitting from you across the table is going to cave. And time again, in the Israeli media, even American commentators are saying, Iran's not going to capitulate. This isn't the way to handle it. Now, my question is whether this Al Jazeera statement quoting a senior Iranian official is accurate or is not being twisted a bit, because really what it says is messages have been exchanged through Egypt and Turkey in good faith to reduce tensions. As far as we know, that could be Happy Nowruz.
Could be. We have several super chats, by the way, so thank you to everyone. Karim, do you believe Trump's claims? Do you think there's actual conversations ongoing, or is this just more manipulation?
No, I think nobody knows, but I think what he's doing is doing for the internal affairs of the United States. It has nothing to do with the war because of the oil prices. So after his command, the oil prices has went down till now. The oil price is $88. It was 99. So it worked. Whatever he did, it worked.
We saw it, right? The price of oil went down 13% after his tweet.
Yeah, 100%. يعني it worked, and still I don't know how much he can manipulate the public.
Well, it went down 2 trillion, right? So in 56 minutes of markets opening, it went down 2 trillion based on Trump's statement yesterday, and then it rallied back again 1 trillion up.
I think it's the other way around, Charmaine. I think it's the other way around because you're talking about the S&P 500, right? I think it gained 2 trillion and then went down 1 trillion, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the oil prices went up 2 trillion.
No, I'm pretty sure you're talking about the S&P 500. Yeah, it's the market.
Oh, sorry,
it's the market capitalization.
Oil prices went down 2 trillion and then went up 1 trillion when the Iranians denied there had been any negotiations. So, I mean, in effect, every sound out of any capital now is affecting oil prices. And just, don't forget that the stock price of something is not actually necessarily reflective of how much people are actually selling a barrel of oil in reality on the ground, as we saw when we saw a $50 disparity between the price of oil in the West and the price of oil in East Asia. We recognize that events and stock prices are not necessarily at all the price that people are having to buy on the ground, because events are changing so fast too.
And they fluctuate so quickly. I mean, they fluctuate with every announcement. They fluctuate with every new explosion. And now, I think it was pretty clear, right, that if he had gone through with his threat, which I believe the initial 48-hour period was going to run out tonight. So, of course, by tomorrow, he would have woken up to, half of the Gulf infrastructure, oil and gas infrastructure, essentially up in flames if they had attacked Iran. Another thing here is that he claims that he has given Israel like a firm demand, right? Like a firm orders, I guess, to not attack Iran's energy infrastructure. And, I don't want to pretend like I can see the future, but I can. It does feel like we're going to see in the next couple of days, Israel is going to attack this energy infrastructure, because every time we have seen Trump or anyone else really set a red line, Israel just gleefully crosses it, right? So do you guys expect this? Because I'm honestly convinced that we're just going to see this happen regardless of whatever Trump is saying.
Yeah, Israel, Netanyahu in particular has his own agenda entirely, and he will play his card when he thinks it's opportune moment, or when he's genuinely frightened about what happens next if he doesn't act. And that includes everything from targeting Iranian civilian infrastructure and industrial infrastructure to using a nuclear weapon. I have to say, like watching him at his press conference over the weekend, when he sort of made it sound like he said clearly, like, the Americans are leading this, right? And we're just following, right? I felt he said it with a smirk, or he said it with, a sense that is so not the case in my mind. Because he said, he's been caught off camera on mic saying things like, we control everything in the US. We can control everyone and everything. And we know exactly how to do it. So, Netanyahu has a lot of levers left, but I am sure he's not going to poke the bear when Trump has just felt like he's had a massive PR setback, right? Ego. Mm-hmm. He has a massive PR setback. That's not the time Netanyahu is going to be calling him. He's going to have his handlers like Susie Wiles and whoever else take him down a notch or two before, he makes his next ask. What do you think, Karim?
Yeah, first I want to thank Badabu, or no, Bada.
We call him Yabba Dabba Doo.
Yes, he's saying or she's saying, "I love you guys and won't stop doing that. Love you too." And we have two questions. One, the first from XO Rivers OX. Are the rumors about Ismail Khani being a spy true? I don't think so. I have no idea, but this rumor surfaced following the assassination of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, and I think the Iranians had 2 years to know if it was true or no, and he's still in his
Can
position.
you explain who Ismail Khani is, Karim, for those who don't know?
Yeah, he's
Of course.
Quds Force commander in the IRGC. He's a very high rank general in the IRGC, which is part of the armed
He
forces of
replaced
Iran.
Qasem Soleimani.
Yeah. Also, Bibi looks like had a stroke, lower limb weakness, slurred speech. It would explain the need of for AI. I didn't see that, or I don't know. Maybe after the show, I will see such pictures or videos. Love you all. Love you too. And also the last one. Yes.
No, go ahead.
The last one. Could you please interview Sheer Haver? I have no idea.
I would love to. If you can get me his mobile number, I have been trying to reach him for around 2 months.
Okay.
He doesn't respond to email, so if you can get me his number, I would be more than happy to.
Yeah, regarding the oil prices I was talking about.
Go ahead.
Oh, wait, can I just respond to the
Yeah.
questions that were asked for? So about Khani, the rumor mill is meant to create paranoia within the upper ranks of the Iranians. This is a long-held practice of the Americans and Israelis. There are so many examples of this. And I mean, what comes to mind is, for instance, for me, when Hezbollah's military commander, the guy who basically created their asymmetrical military blueprint, Imad Mughniya, was assassinated by the Israelis and Americans in Damascus. They ceded openly, like US officials would say this, they ceded doubt. And they ceded the notion that the Syrians had killed him. Yeah. And they kept that act up for years. And then, of course, we discover many years later, they come up and openly admit that they killed him. So this kind of thing happens a lot. What was the second part of the question? It was about...
Netanyahu's health.
Oh, I just want to say something. I don't know how true this is, but I know through somebody who's ex-Israeli foreign ministry, that he's heard for some time now that Netanyahu has cancer. I don't know about that. I mean, they always say that about, their the leaders of their adversary nations, right? But in this case, had y'all heard that before, that he had cancer? That
he did a surgery at the beginning of last year.
I believe.
Yeah, we heard about the surgery, but we haven't heard that he has cancer, and I thought that was interesting.
I believe that prostate.
I would say that cancer has Netanyahu at this point.
Yeah, 100%.
But Karim, you were talking. Finish your thoughts about the oil, about the situation.
Yeah, about the oil. We were talking about that Trump.
We asked through friends, Electronic Intifada. All we got is an email address. So yeah, you guys do some digging. Pretend we're Candace Owens and y'all are our internet sleuths. Find us Sheer Haver's number, please. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, guys, for interrupting.
Yeah, that's it. No, he's manipulating the stocks. Not the stocks, the oil price.
The oil prices, yeah. There's something else interesting that happened over the weekend, actually, in regards to Trump's, I guess, plans, if we can even call them that at this point, because we know that there's like thousands of Marines headed right now to the to West Asian waters to wrestle control of the Strait of Hormuz from Iran. At the same time, the Huffington Post, and I'm not sure actually if you guys saw this over the weekend or not, we also did a report on the Cradle about this. They reported speaking with a number of NGOs and also a number of U.S. service members who have been saying, apparently in increasing numbers, like shockingly large numbers, that they do not want to die for Israel, that they do not want to be political pawns, and that they are contacting organizations to declare themselves as conscientious objectors of this war. And I mean, just before we started, I saw that the USS Gerald Ford has finally docked in Greece, and it's set for repairs. They don't give a time frame for how long the repairs are, but this is, first of all, the newest ship in the U.S. Armada, and it's been deployed for like I think almost for nearly a year at this point. With the fires inside, laundry fires, of course, and the sewage problems and all of that. I mean, I kind of take this as a whole, right? Like all of a sudden now, the biggest aircraft carrier and the newest aircraft carrier that the U.S. has essentially out of commission, and at the same time, you have a growing number of U.S. service members saying, we do not want to fight this war, and we're going to try to find a way. So what future is there really for Donald Trump militarily in West Asia?
I don't think what they are saying will have an effect because Americans, especially in the army, they are like machines. They are like literally as if they are a code and they operate, although they have opinions. And they are born and taught to be like that. I don't think anybody has an opinion or effect on the American U.S. Army except for Donald Trump at the meantime. Maybe later in the future this will happen, but I don't seeing it happening now because, as I said, they operate like machines. They don't even think during their service. That's one. And the second thing is that the only thing that can maybe create pressure is the families of these soldiers.
The service members.
The service members, yeah, their families, they might go to TV and exert some pressure on Trump. But knowing Trump and knowing the nature of the United States and knowing the regime of the West and the United States, the only thing that can pressure the United States to stop the war not is the killing of U.S. soldiers, but the economy being affected. And that's what we were talking about first. I think if you put to Trump an option, 10,000 American dies or the economy will be shaken, he will choose, no, kill 10,000 and don't shake my economy.
Kill a million.
And that's what is going on. And I think Iran will persist in its attacks at least till the barrel of oil reaches 120, because till now their goal has not been met recently. That's their goal. They said it the first time. They want to increase the oil prices and make this very, very costly to the West and the United States and Israel in specific. So they will not even think about targeting Iran alone, because militarily there is no deterrence between the Americans and the Israeli in one hand and the Iranians in one hand. The deterrence that Iran is creating is an economical deterrence, which will make any Western leader to attack Iran to think 100 times about the economy and about the Strait of Hormuz before thinking about the missiles and the army capability of Iran. And till now, this is being underway. And if the United States haven't taken all these procedures to stop the oil from increasing in prices, it would have been accomplished. But I don't know till when the West will accept the lies of Trump.
Well, let's show our viewers what the Iranians in charge really think of Trump. We had a funny video come out yesterday.
Now let's listen to it.
Hey Trump, you are fired. You are familiar with this sentence. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The central headquarters of Khatam al-Anbiya.
Hey Trump, you're fired.
It seems almost like the Iranians are, to some extent, kind of relishing in the situation of showing up the U.S. in the way that they have, no?
Well, I think when you listen to Trump's many statements every day and they just, go back and forth, you have to. I mean, it's an opportunity. They always say political shows run by comedians actually have a far bigger impact on audiences. I remember that because I don't know if it's still around. Air America, it was like this radio show or radio station, and you had like Janine Garofalo and a bunch of basically political comedians on it, and they would resonate so much more with people. And so I do think the Iranians will take opportunity every once in a while. This is no laughing matter to them,
No.
But don't forget, psychological warfare is part of warfare. It's an important part of warfare. So I thought it was particularly funny because he said it with such a straight, serious face, like he didn't.
You don't expect it.
Yeah, he the same guy who's been delivering us, daily updates on the war from Iran, I guess the command room, delivered something like that. So it was notable, to say the least. On another front, the British have a submarine, right, heading towards West Asia. Yeah. Has it just arrived?
I saw it arriving yesterday, I think.
Okay, the Sun yesterday put out a big story saying nearly 200 sailors serving in Britain's nuclear submarine force caught doing hard drugs from ecstasy to cocaine. And that was kind of like,
I mean, it's
what's going on like naval related vehicles of the NATO forces? Like, what's going on?
It's pretty a well-known fact, I feel, at this point, that in particular the special forces of these countries are pretty hard drug users. This is what they did in Afghanistan, this is what they did in Iraq and elsewhere, right?
Do you think Hezbollah and the Iran IRGC? I don't think. We know ISIS. We know ISIS, right? That was a big thing. Captagon. They would just get like.
That's what I was gonna bring up, because I remember one time I talked to our good friend Radwan Mortada about this. I was asking him questions about it, and he told me, no, even the ISIS, they don't take drugs because they're very religious. They're very, very religious. So it's not really a parallel, right, that exists between the Westerners, like a Western soldier who gets prescribed uppers and downers so that they can be like killing machines all day, and Islamic soldiers, soldiers within an Islamic, be it resistance or in the case of ISIS, just a terrorist organization, popping the same amount of pills because it goes against actually what they believe. So this is kind of like a very Western phenomenon.
Maybe, but let's not call them Islamists, because these guys would do atrocities in the field, and a lot of them were in it for money and opportunistic reasons. So I wouldn't even, compare them with Iranian or Hezbollah in the sense that
you can't. Yeah.
They had a warped, degenerate kind of, religious cultism.
Exactly. And you see the difference. And I mean, I don't know, I think maybe we should get a bit into the situation in Lebanon right now, because many major things have happened. And in particular, I want to start with this. Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, West Bank settler, Judeo-supremacist, if there ever was one, has just given an interview on Israeli radio and said it out loud. The new Israeli border needs to be the Litani River in Lebanon. And they have already been openly calling, not just Smotrich, most of the Israeli cabinet have been saying we can't allow civilians to return to the south of Lebanon. We need to destroy all of the infrastructure, and which they are. They're bombing bridge after bridge, home after home. And I mean, this is now out in the open, right? Like they are just saying, now the new border of Israel is going to be the Litani River, which I think, Karim, you were talking about 10% of Lebanon's land territory?
No, I think it's around 23%
oh my God.
South of the Litani. You can't know because the Litani doesn't cross Lebanon from west to east. There is imaginary line that Israelis drew in the 80s, and now that's what is concerning south of Litani. But geographically and for the Lebanese, there is nothing called south of the Litani.
And the Israelis have hit recently, I think yesterday, bridge
today and yesterday. Yes,
they bombed Hasmi as well, right, in Beirut.
I think that was
we're not sure. No.
Are you sure?
Our government, you're true. That's what the people said. But our government is so weak, and we are so weak. We don't know till now, since like 4 hours, they don't know if it was a gas explosion or an Israeli strike.
Oh my God, that is
they're also, the Lebanese government is spinning this to advantage, and they're highly politicized and highly on one side of this. They've even banned the Lebanese resistance group. And today, Prime Minister Nawaf Shalom, has made the outrageous claim that members of Iran's Revolutionary Guards are commanding Hezbollah's operations in the resistance's ongoing war with Israel. Lashing out at Hezbollah every opportunity he can, trying to pull ethnic, nationalist, sectarian sentiment into this by saying that the Iranians are commanding the war. Meanwhile, the Americans are commanding whether he has a toilet break or not. Let's be honest.
Exactly. Please, everyone, hit that like button. Please,
And I
everyone,
have
hit
no
that
problem with this statements. He is commanded by the Israelis and the Americans, and the Gulf countries are like gangs, not gangs, whatever. They are like followers of the Americans. So now there is a war, let's be frank, there is a war between the Iranians and their allies, and between the Israelis and Americans and their allies. In this context, our government and the Gulf states or monarchies, whatever you call them, in addition to Jordan, they are fully with the side of the Americans. And the Iranians and Hezbollah and some Yemenis and some Iraqis are with Iran. That's the war that we are facing.
Indeed. But as far as the situation in Lebanon, I think also I guess we've spoken at length about this, but I also saw some reports that it's been essentially non-stop fire from southern Lebanon into northern Israel. And I don't know if you have any comments on that, Karim, if there's anything new. Because
for instance, yesterday, since the 80s, Hezbollah made the most operations against the Israelis. They made more than 60 operations, to be specific, 63 operations against the Israelis. And the scope of the operations was downing drones, for instance, targeting soldiers, sending missiles into the Israeli villages that already Hezbollah threatened to attack. And of course, the Israeli army reported that there were injuries. They never die, and of course, one of the injuries because a car carrying soldiers flipped into its back. And this stuff, these kinds of stuff. And also yesterday, something happened in the north, between the Lebanese border. Until now, nobody knows what happened. There was like sirens that the Iranians fired missiles, and that's it. We don't know where they land. Did they land? Where they're fired by Hezbollah. There's contradictions from the Israeli media, and Hezbollah is still somehow silent about what happened. So Hezbollah situation inside Lebanon is terrible. It's the worst ever, politically I'm speaking. But in the military, they are doing very good. We can't even compare them to the 2024 war that lasted around 60 days. What they are doing in a few days is equivalent to what they did like in 1 month last war. Clearly, Israel is not being able to assassinate. What they are doing now, they are assassinating Iranians in Lebanon or assassinating journalists affiliated with Hezbollah, like what they did last week in the middle of Beirut. They killed Al-Manar presenter, which is a TV in Lebanon. As simple as that. He's a TV presenter and a journalist. And also they killed people in the streets when something happens. Also, I want to mention this to the people that are watching us. Israel has like a doctrine.
Wait, you want to remove the screen? Sorry.
Oh.
So I can see you while you're talking.
So Israel has like a
military doctrine.
Announced doctrine, which means that, for instance, if Hezbollah did any operation inside Israel and it was successful, and the media took it and it starts to like being circulated, what Israel does, it targets civilians so people can be happy or excited. So that's what they are doing. Previously, in the previous war, this is something very significant. Usually when a member of Hezbollah fires a missile or a Kornet missile or barrage of like Katyusha missiles, usually the Israeli army will put a video, for instance, of the operation, and they will say that a person who fired blah 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 was eliminated, and there's videos and all sort of stuff. Currently, this is not happening, and we're seeing Hezbollah members firing missiles, retreating, and Israel is unable to target them. And as the new Secretary General of Hezbollah said 3 days ago, he said the issue of the infiltration that occurred from Israel into Hezbollah has been resolved, and it's clearly that it has been resolved. So hopefully we'll see what will happen in the few coming days. And also to talk also about Lebanon, many Lebanese people, even the people that are with Hezbollah, they are afraid that the war will stop with Iran and will continue in Lebanon because of what the Israelis said 2 days ago. They said that this is a long war and we will not stop until eliminating Hezbollah. We know they said this previously. Despite that, Iran said that Lebanon and Iran is one battle.
So any ceasefire would have to encompass the two fronts.
That's what the Iranians hinted to.
Interesting.
I mean, we're going back to like what Trump wanted: everything, removal of Iran's missile program, complete capitulation on even having a indigenous nuclear energy program. He wanted change of leadership. He wanted,
the missile program to be gone.
Yeah, I said that. I mean, just all these things, and literally now, he's unsanctioning Iranian oil. He's trying every day to get the Iranians to talk to him. He's going to have to pay trillions potentially to put this to rest, because it's remember, it was the most surprising thing we heard at the beginning in terms of Iran's conditions, reparations, and everyone was like, no. Iran is holding strong to that one. It is holding strong. It's not likely to give at all. It took the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to, now determine which ships go through. I mean, I don't now. I mean, for the foreseeable future, it will create a new arrangement of checking ships and maybe exclude Western ships for some time. I mean, like, his goals have been set so far back. I mean, it's not just, he's saying we're winning. His goal, his most basic goals have been set back to the Stone Age. It's remarkable, and I'm on these shows now. Like I was on this Indian news program, debate show with Israelis. You'll have to catch it. I haven't been on a show. I didn't know they were on it, but I haven't been on a show. What dumbos. The things they were saying. They were like, listen to this, guys. One of them was actually saying that Russia and China gave the order for Hamas to do October 7th, 2023. And this is because a month before, the Indians and Gulf, whatever, had announced the idea of IMEC, the international, what is it? The India Middle East corridor, right?
Uh-huh. Yes.
They were saying things like this, and then this other Israeli was shouting over him, "You're a conspiracy theorist." Like, I'm telling you, not very well-behaved people, but that was so fascinating because they were trying to promote this idea that it was, what are you talking about? Because the question that the debate was, has Iran won or have the U.S. and Israel won? Which is, early days yet, but the Israelis were saying, absolutely, we've won. Are you kidding? Like, nobody's even really asking that question. And the rest of us were like, what are you talking about? The whole world perceives that the U.S. has lost. And they were trying to promote this idea that if you, it's not the case that if you don't lose, you've won. That is not so. Western statesmen, time and time again in history, have said, if a weaker party, meaning like the smaller state, whatever, does not lose, it has effectively won. And we're not even looking at that here. We're looking at Iran dialing back U.S. demands and U.S. goals in the region for decades and decades and decades, well before the 70s and even the 50s. Okay, so very interesting times ahead. Can't
People
wait
are
to
asking.
see how this is. Go ahead.
People are asking the name of the show so they can check it out. I don't know if you can remember it. Maybe if you do.
I tweeted it.
Okay.
It's
So maybe people
called
can check out.
Republic World. It's a debate show, but you can see it on my Twitter account.
Very interesting. So go check that out, guys. But after this podcast is over, of course. Something interesting, if we head back a bit to the Strait of Hormuz, because Reuters just reported that another 2 Indian tankers have passed successfully through the Strait of Hormuz after, obviously, coordinated with Iran. At the same time, earlier today, the Japanese foreign minister said that they are not even considering Iran's offer to allow their tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. We know, which way Tokyo sways currently. And then this last one is very interesting.
Well, it may be because Iran's demanding the Japanese to pay in yuan, which is a particular humiliation for the Japanese.
I mean, more humiliating that, what's her name? Takaichi's visit to the White House and the Pearl Harbor crack. I'm not so sure you can get that low. But at the same time, apparently Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea are all preparing emergency measures to contain the rising fuel costs and supply risks triggered by what's happening, by the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran. Apparently in Australia in particular, the prices are going up because people are panic buying. And, there's something else. There's another angle to this whole debacle that Donald Trump has unleashed on the world, and is the fertilizers, right? Like we are in the Northern Hemisphere about to start the planting season, right? Like the farmers, etc. And now about a third of the world's fertilizers are essentially stuck because Donald Trump cannot find a way out of this war, cannot find it in his head that he needs to capitulate, essentially. Western nations in general are going to have to start, I think last week we discussed this, right? That they were going to start implementing these restrictions because the International Energy Agency is saying this is worse than the 1970s energy crisis. They're saying it's like twice as bad as what the world went through in that period of time. And, I feel like nobody's really even bringing this up, right? Like what the next few weeks are going to look like, much less what the next few months.
Yeah, before continuing about Strait of Hormuz, we have super chats. We have one from Seamus Warren. Is Donnie Taco, I think he's referring to Donald Trump, loudly announcing U.S. troops movements a diversion. For me, I don't think so. They need an image for being victorious, and they might make an operation. It might not be in the island, in the Khorj Island, maybe in other places that are not protected in Iran, just to show that they did something. And he might risk it, because don't forget that they did this in Venezuela, and it was successful. And unfortunately, in Lebanon, Israel attempted it 2 times in 24 hours. It was not successful, but also there was no casualties. So they might. And also he continues and say, are Neo-Ottomans and Azeris massing on Persia northern frontier? There is no evidence of that. And if there was evidence, they would say simply that, yes, there is war and we have to protect our borders. But for me, if Iran is weakened, I won't be surprised if Azerbaijan tried to take north of Iran, to be honest. Also, we have a super sticker from Louise Smith. Thanks. And we have my friend Martin, as an LA native and current resident. I shout out Karim Hudi. Yeah.
Read the last part.
Orale, I don't know.
There you go. Orale.
My sister gifted this me to be honest, 2-3 years ago. Okay, and the last one, we have this sticker. Yeah, regarding
thank you so much.
The Strait of Hormuz, man, I don't think there's a solution for Strait of Hormuz. That's one. And also, what Japan said, for instance, shows the control of the United States over Japan, because it's not a beneficiary for Japan to act like this. And this also sends me back to the Gulf countries. And if Japan releasing such statements. Imagine what the Gulf states, the pressures on Gulf states, which literally they have nothing like cards against the United States, or they don't have the balls to talk against the United States. So regarding Gulf of Hormuz, as the Iranians said, they said it's not closed. Countries that are not hostile to Iran can pass their ships by coordinating with Iran, and that's what's happening. Some are paying money, and the others I don't know, to be honest, and it's so vague. We don't know, for instance, if these Indian ships have, for instance, Iranian oil, or does they have like
Let me check.
UAE oil? We don't know.
They were carrying liquefied petroleum gas. They loaded in Kuwait and the UAE. That's what they're saying.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not a military guy, but if I was Iran, I wouldn't allow this, to be honest. They should choke these countries more and more, because these countries have been hostile to the Iranians and the Iranian people and the Iranian policies and religion and everything since 47 years. They have funded wars against Iran, beginning in with Saddam Hussein. Iran revolution started in 1979. Couple of months later, they launched an 8-year war against Iran, which nobody won, and it led to the deaths of more than 1 million Iraqi and Iranian, and it weakened Iraq. And also they funded the war against Afghanistan and Iraq, and they did all of these bases against Iran. They fought, of course, the Iraqis and the Lebanese and Hezbollah and everybody. So I don't know why they did this. We'll see. Maybe there's an explanation, or somebody will ask an official.
I think this war is going to expand. I think it's going to I think there's going to be more aggressions from the Americans and Israelis. I say this not because I know anything in particular, but because I cannot think of a time where they didn't escalate. If they perceive their adversary to be strong, they need to escalate to show that they're stronger, okay, and they can defeat. They need to exit with a defeat, even if Trump doesn't care, and he exits. The Israelis need to exit, with a victory. But if the adversary appears weakened at any point, they, accelerate even more. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, with the Israelis and Americans. So I've not seen them pull back from anything like this. It's about humiliation. It's about humiliating the enemy. Plus, to be honest, I think do you remember what happened after 12 days of the June war? There were Iranians who were furious about it in Iran. I'm not talking about people from the government. I'm talking about regular people on the streets. Why did we stop? It's too early to stop. They were right. They were absolutely right. I think there'd be a revolution on the streets of Iran if after 24 days of this, someone in the reformist government, took the lead in negotiating something. I mean, obviously they wouldn't be able to without the IRGC's okay and the Supreme Leader's okay, but I'm just saying, if there was a change of tactic from what has been a very well executed war by the Iranians, I think Iranians would go insane.
I agree with you. I think that's the not just within Iran, right? I feel like a broader perspective was that, like, why would you quit at that point? And now, it would be even worse. I was reading about the ships that have been sailing through the Strait of Hormuz, and at least 14 Iran-flagged oil tankers have reached Asian waters around the Singapore Strait since February 28. So, it's business as usual for Iran's oil sales. I think that's just very interesting, honestly, how the way they're trying to present this war as Iran being completely, on the ground, finished, done. That's what Donald Trump keeps saying. And yet,
they're erecting toll booths in the Hormuz, and they have people screening the identification documents, etc. They're creating a new paradigm in the Persian Gulf, and I think, why would you let go of that asset? I mean, don't forget, Iranians are chess players, right? They're strategic thinkers. We can see this just from the last two wars and the four Operation True Promises that they've executed. There's no way they're going to go for like a minimalist win. They want to change the paradigm. One of their conditions is assurances that this will never happen again. You can never get an assurance from the Americans or Israelis, even if it was signed in American or Israeli blood. That doesn't exist, right? What do the Russians call it? We mention on the show all the time. They're agreement incapable.
Incapable.
All right. They're agreement incapable. And so when the Iranians say they want to guarantee that this won't happen again as one of their primary conditions, the only way Iran can guarantee that is not by an American or Israeli signature. It is by changing the entire paradigm of the Persian Gulf, not just the security paradigm, but who actually controls and administers it. And that's how you have a guarantee.
Exactly. I'm reading something also right now. You guys know Gideon Levy, right? He's, I think, the editor-in-chief of Haaretz. He's saying that he's completely sure and certain and convinced that Donald Trump is serious and that we are very close to the end of this war. So, take that as you will. Karim, I want to ask you a question, man, because this just came up. I just remembered this because over the past 24 hours, I think we also saw the UAE put out a statement in which they said, we're not going to talk to terrorists. We're not going to negotiate with terrorists.
The foreign minister said it.
That was the foreign minister.
Yeah.
My goodness. I mean, in a difficult day for the UAE too, because they just lost the CEO of OnlyFans. So, or talk about to the UAE. So what do you make of this statement?
Wait, what do you mean? The CEO of OnlyFans is Emirati?
No, he's based in Dubai. It's just a little joke.
Oh, okay.
He's half Israeli, you can say. And I have to thank also Simran. Thank you. That's a very kind comment.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
He wants to see Karim and I fight?
Yeah.
That's not nice. Isn't there enough fighting out there, guys?
I am being peaceful. That's it. That's why we are not fighting. So the point is regarding the Gulf countries. Now we might fight. As I said, since day one, even since maybe the first podcast, if you go back like 2 years ago, again, I have the same mentality. The Gulf countries are just pawns for the Americans. They can't do anything without the Americans. And even if you see a policy that is contradicting with the foreign policy of the Americans, that will be also also the Americans tell them or give them space to play such cards because they can't without the Americans, and including, of course, the UAE. Because look, we have history in this region. For instance, the Ottoman Empire occupied these countries for like 480 years. And when there was no Ottoman Empire, all the countries fell. Some tried to get independence and they were crushed by the Brits and the French. And then the French and Brits came and saw these geographically challenging ethnicities and people in the region, and they divided us depending on the Saharas or deserts and to the mountains, and that's why there's Lebanon and Syria and other places. And since then, some countries gained independence, at least for some years, and some never had independence, which include all the GCC countries, or all the Gulf countries except for Iraq. Meaning that, for instance, the UAE took independence in the 70s. And as I said it, we all know, not we all, because Sharmeen doesn't accept me say this. I know, at least, since we were young, we were taught, and we learned that these monarchies, they raise their kids to be slaves for the Americans, and they can't get out of the Americans. As simple as that. Even because they know what will happen now is the same what happened when the Ottoman Empire fall. If the Americans are out of the country, they will fall. Yani they are the first one who will travel outside of the country. They will not even wait for protests.
So Karim is largely right. I think where I disagree with him is that he cleaves to historic actions and behaviors and doesn't recognize that in a world that is changing so seismically, there are going to be actors who choose another way and actors who sink. It's simply that, when things get existential for Gulf countries, you might see some try to go all the way with the Americans, and you might see others who jump ship. And it's that simple. You cannot rest your laurels on history entirely, especially when there's been generational change among the ruling elite there. I've spent time with, young Gulf Arabs who went to universities in the States. They drive around in their sports cars, their flashy sports cars. They can get out of any situation. They come there with diplomatic passports. They hire white people to do all the consulting for their business and do all the dirty work for their businesses when they're, a bit older. They don't have the same slavishness as their grandparents. So I'm just saying that things can change. And let's end it here. So Karim and I don't get into a fight. What is this thing? Marxist Leninist? What was that next? Sorry, I missed that. Into Esteban's politics or
My
Eritrean?
politics.
No, please do
Eritrean
a dive into Eritrean politics.
Eritrean politics.
To be honest, that's very difficult for me, for us. Yani. I know they are very close and they are between Djibouti and Sudan, and they have a big coast on the Red Sea. But geopolitically, they are not active, to be honest.
Well, they are in the sense that, where the Emiratis and Somaliland and Ethiopia are lining up, Egypt and Eritrea and Somalia are lining up on the other side. So, events happen and they create new alliances, which we're seeing in the region. I just got a message today from our Pakistani correspondent at the Cradle, who sent me a link, and we don't know if anything at all will materialize from it, but it talks about the Turks, the Egyptians, the Saudis, and the Pakistanis, all four doing defense, mutual defense pact. We'll see.
We have comments now. This is just now. It was just published by Ynet. Netanyahu addressing Trump's statements about negotiations. And this is what he said, his words. Earlier today, I spoke with Trump. He believes that there is a chance to leverage the great achievements of the IDF and the U.S. military to realize the war goals in the agreement, an agreement that will safeguard our vital interest. At the same time, we continue to attack both Iran and Lebanon. We are crushing the missile. He just goes on to talk about that. He's talking about an agreement too. He's talking about an agreement that will secure their vital interests. I don't know what to make of this, to be honest. I don't buy it. I still don't buy it.
Look, I want also to help me here, Esteban. Usually you see them, I don't see them. The name, we have a very big, generous super chat from
P. Dehan, 2004.
2004. Thank you. Love how you untangle the propaganda. Thank you very much. And also we have, again, super chat. What happens when the ruling families in the Khalij cannot pay for the local tribal families?
In the Gulf.
Khalij means Gulf. This will surely cause internal dissent. It's from Khalil Sheikh. I am better than you in this one. Yeah, look, man, it's not about this. It depends. You have, مثلا, for instance, the oil that is being sold in Saudi Arabia is divided to the country plus to the Al Saud family. It's not divided to all of the residents, for instance, because Saudi Arabia has a larger population than the others. They have native Saudis. The native Saudis are about 18 to 17 million, and the rest are expats. Unlike UAE and Qatar, the max of their population is 380, maybe less, maybe no, from Qatar, and around 1 million in the UAE. So, for instance, this has passed. In countries in Saudi Arabia, when you are born, you are raised to be a slave for the king, okay? Which called, they don't say the king, they say ولي العهد. يعني الأمر والطاعة لولي العهد. This is the word that every single person is raised on in Saudi Arabia. That means you should not question anything that the crown prince or the king says. He's always right. So that's how they are raised. And they control them through clerics and through the media and through sheikhs that go, and the same sheikhs, for instance, that went to the TVs to like recruit people, and they succeeded unfortunately against Syria. They don't appear now, and they didn't appear during the Gaza genocide. So that's how Saudi Arabia, for instance, operate. Qatar has a different way, and UAE has a different way. But we have to know that it's about the security of the family. United States gives security for the family. If the Gulf countries are afraid of something, they are afraid to lose this security. Meaning, it's not only firepower security, it's about the establishment in the United States accepting this particular family and this particular person in this family to be the king and to be the emir. If the United States are not there to secure this throne, these families, they have history. Now, Sharmeen, I know she doesn't love history, but history is very important. They have history.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. I'm just saying I don't.
Every single time.
I look at conditions now. History is important to learn from.
Yeah, but
I
you
look
never.
at conditions now. I don't go back.
Whenever I say the word
100 years
history,
ago,
you do like
I
this,
don't-
Sharmeen.
No, because I don't. Every Arab does this. They go back to 100 years ago as though.
Not every Arab. No, Sharmeen.
Excuse me.
Every
Kareem,
single person who talks about
as a-
geopolitics, he
Kareem,
talks about history and
let me
geography.
just
It's
say,
normal.
As,
Yes.
as a foreign journalist covering the Arab world, I always know when I'm going to get the history lesson. I'm
Of
nothing
course,
against history.
because
But what wait, Kareem, let me
Yes.
finish. The people in the region, the vast majority of people in the region are under 30, and they grew up in an internet age. You cannot go
So
to what
what?
their let me finish forefathers, how they thought and moved and acted and lived, and then apply that to today. Exactly. It doesn't work. But I just want to go because
I didn't finish my point. 1 minute.
Okay, but, wait,
So-
hold on. But this
Yes.
has to do with what you're saying, because Seamus Warren asked the question: is it too soon to imagine West Asian state boundaries defined on cultural and historic lines, and not according to Ottoman and Anglo-imperial mandates? It kind of wraps in with the Khalij issue.
Yeah, I didn't understand the sentence.
He's saying, is it too early to imagine that we toss off like false Ottoman Empire established borders and Anglo-French established borders?
Yes. It's very early. Nobody is even talking about it, unfortunately, although I am with this idea.
I've
So
talked about
this
it.
this is the point. The history tells us in this region, recent history, every single family that is ruling now was overthrown by a member of a family. And, if it's Saudi Arabia, if it's Al Thani in Qatar, if it's in the UAE. So that's what they are afraid of. That's why they don't have a real army, because they are afraid who will be the head of this army from another tribe. Maybe he becomes more powerful than me. He will become a king. That's the mentality and the facts of the Gulf countries. And regarding history, for instance, we know that the most famous maybe analysis now in the world is Professor Jiang. I don't know if I pronounce his name correctly. And all his assumptions is not about recent history. They are even about like what happened hundreds of years, and he's nailing it. So that's why I always talk about geography and history, because it's very important to know geopolitics.
Okay,
Guys,
so just to in response to Seamus Warren's question, I don't think it's too early, in the sense that the entire Arab world has spent all the years since Sykes-Picot, whether through literature, through small political parties, through large political platforms, even heads of state, on and off discussing Sykes-Picot and how it needs to be undone. I mean, the way these borders were drawn separate tribes, families from each other. You know what I mean? So it's never too soon to talk about it. Can it happen? It can only happen when you have that paradigm shift in the region. Now we're having the paradigm shift happen in the world. The actual shift hasn't happened yet, but everybody know, from Davos to Bilderberg to whatever, they're worried about this. They know it's happening, right? And they're trying to protect their capital. They're trying to protect their real estate. I think in the Arab world, certainly, and I say the Arab world is distinguished from Iran and Turkey because they don't have overlords in the same way, people who pay them off and dictate what they should do. They will, because that's what I've witnessed over the 14, 15 years I've lived there. They will tread water until the big players, one side wins, one side loses, and then things shift. That's unfortunate. Thankfully, in the Arab world, there are actual players with efficiency. Most of them are non-state actors, but they essentially have apparatus bigger than the state in some cases, and have shown administrative capabilities as well as military prowess. So when that shifts in the region, you will see these things. But, borders, if they've been around for 70 years, it's very hard to undo them. So I think it will be border conflicts. Those have never gone away in this region. Almost any country you look at in this region has a border issue with countries abutting its borders. And why is that? Because these borders were drawn by foreigners so arbitrarily. So of course those things will shift, but before anything happens, I think you need the loss of the unipolar world, and a victory for multipolarism. And that's when you would see, not just in this region, to be honest, it'll be everywhere.
A few things I want to mention. Go ahead. You want to mention the super chats?
Yeah, the super chats. Chats. We have one also from
Simran Shergil.
Yeah. Don't you think it's time for Muslim nations to finally see the U.S. hypocrisy and finally come together for their collective good? I am on Charmin side, by the way, fab job. And we have also crude oil record is $147 per barrel. That is doomsday for U.S. and world economy. But I don't see war ending, but expanding. We talked about this, yes, exactly. Even if U.S. leaves Israel can't be left in its current form, annexing southern Lebanon and West Bank.
You didn't read the name, Karim.
Sorry, it's John. Yeah, John Mama said this. I have let me answer this very briefly because the first half you already talked about it. With or without the United States, Israel can do more than what it's doing in the south, to be honest, regarding Hezbollah, because Hezbollah knows the geography, and also they have history in defeating the Israelis.
There's a couple of things.
We have one more, also from Seamus. As Washington is under Israeli occupation, that's not a question. Uncle Sam is actually Uncle Shmuley.
Thank you so much to everyone.
Shmuley is a village on the border here also.
Really?
We have this. So we didn't answer Simran, don't you think the time? It's the time since ever, since 600 years. But no, I don't see it. And this, unfortunately, will not happen because of simple answer. There is no intellectuals, there is no brains that are driving such thoughts in the Arab and Muslim worlds. We don't have them anymore, and they are being crushed by the Israelis. When you see assassination, it doesn't always mean that he's a military person. The Israelis assassinate people that have the will and the brain capacity to unify the Arabs and Muslims. They assassinate them. The same applies to the Gulf countries. There's one of the most important things they did in the recent 2 decades is to kill this idea. You won't see an intellectual that is calling for this idea on a TV or on social media, and if he says so on his social media, he will be banned. These voices are not never, at least till now, they never go online. And one of these people are, for instance, the Palestinian Banat. who was
Nizar
killed,
Banat, yeah.
Nizar Banat, who was killed by the Palestinians because he was calling and about
By the
this, and
Palestinian
he was,
Authority.
yeah, by the Palestinian Authority, because he was talking about these nations and their role even before 7th of October. He died before the 7th of October, which is
Wait, if he died, he was killed in 2022 or 2021.
And that's one. And the other one is that every single, unfortunately, ruler of the Arab world, I will not talk about the Muslim world because I don't want to miss a country that might contradicts my facts. They are put by the Americans and the Israelis. So don't ever expect, unfortunately, a person of them to be a leader and asks for unity. The last one who asked for unity is Abdel Nasser, and he died in 1970.
There's a couple of things I want to talk about, guys, if you'll allow me, because we need to. I don't want us to finish today without mentioning it. One is actually about you must have seen this on social media, the bounty that was put on the head of Professor Mohamed Marandi, a friend of the Cradle,
Yeah.
of course, or complete support, and absolutely shameful that Twitter or X as a platform has. I'm not sure actually if they removed it already, but they didn't throughout the entire weekend. And, just absolutely horrible situation for that. We know that he's probably a target for a while. So our full support to him. And one other thing that is
completely violation of Twitter's rules. Completely.
blatant, nevertheless. Another thing that is happening right now under the cover of this war, it was happening in the West Bank. And, the daily news cycle sometimes doesn't allow us to really go into the details of what's happening. And honestly, right now, I can't even go into the details just because of the YouTube algorithm. I can't really say what they're doing to the Palestinians in the West Bank, which is horrific. But for the past 3 days, 3 nights in a row, there's been Jewish pogroms in the occupied West Bank. I mean, the images are just horrible. The destruction that they're leaving behind, the way that they come into the villages. I mean, like absolute hooligans, like stormtroopers running into the villages with sticks, with rocks, with weapons, with fuel to set fire to vehicles and homes, terrorize families under the watchful eye of the army, as they always do. And they have increasingly grown, and by they I mean Jewish settlers, illegal settlers, by the way, according to everyone. They have been more and more using sexual violence against the Palestinians in the West Bank. And, again, just I don't know what else to say, but our full support. And this is something that needs to be spoken about more. If ever anyone listening now, go. We have a couple of reports on the Cradle. Of course, our social media team tries to keep up with it as much as possible. But this is something that's happening under the cover of the larger war, just like the attempt at occupying the south of Lebanon.
It's something, by the way, what you just said, Esteban, thank you for mentioning it, because it's always on my mind after a show to remind people about this, but we're not just a YouTube channel. We're not just podcasters. We have a publication for we're coming up to 5 years this summer, that covers the geopolitics of West Asia, the Cradle. And what we talk about here and how this podcast started was initially just to sort of like cover 3 news stories, maybe like 1 or 2 that went viral from the Cradle, and 1 or 2 that were maybe really important but unheard very much, right? And that's how this podcast then developed. But our core business is the Cradle, the publication, the articles, the news articles, the investigations, analysis, and interviews that we do all the time, bringing you unheard voices or unheard perspectives from this region, professional journalists. Forget how we talk here. These are our personal opinions, right?
Yeah.
And you can see we all have different opinions. And that's what makes the Cradle so interesting, I think, because we're just as independent and fierce in our thinking there, but we only work with professional journalists. So that's a really important reminder to y'all. Check out the Cradle. And let's also remind folks, become a Patreon. Honestly, there's been no more difficult time we've had in our almost 5 years of operating than this moment, for a variety of reasons. Just the transfer of funds from donors in this region, different platforms that don't want to be open to us donating. So please, there's not just Patreon. Patreon is currently our preferred way, and monthly payments are our preferred way. So we can, plan for the year ahead. But you can also make a direct credit card donation directly to the Cradle. We also have that on our website. So please check it out. And if you like our content, I keep saying, I'm not a donor to other platforms, and yet I'm asking people to become a donor to this one. I think it's for people like me who haven't done it before, that this is the time to do it, because we know that you rely on us to bring you those different perspectives. So I've gone on enough. That was just my plea for today. Please become a Patreon, and buy our t-shirts. If you're already a Patreon and you haven't bought a t-shirt or a mug or a tote bag with our slightly edgy, captions, please do.
Exactly. So underneath,
We have also super chats.
No, finish with the super chats, because we had a few. You're right.
Yeah, so we have one from Nitida.
I think
She says, guys, the solution is to fix the screen so that Charmin is in the center. Oh, okay. Okay.
Well,
But see-
Esteban's the mediator. Not the mediator. He's also kind of the host, though we all play that role at different points. So that's why Esteban's in the middle.
خلاص, just for them, for 2 minutes. But seriously, as a historian, I do perceive a gap between a word of ideas, or an idea of the world, and a material reality that is changing. This is a philosophy for me. I didn't understand it. I don't know if you can explain for me more. And we have last one, why Charmin thinks Yemen is a wild card.
I don't know if I use that language. I don't know.
Maybe.
I guess what I meant was, it's not. It hasn't played a role. It hasn't reared its head in this conflict so far after 24 days. And as we know, Yemen kind of single-handedly defeated the U.S. Navy and military forces that were
Essentially, yeah.
dogging it for a whole year and a bit, right? And they just had the Americans put their hands up and say, count me out. So it's a wild card in the sense that, it reminds me of how, no, it's not the same at all. Never mind. But there can be a time in conflict where the enemy has planned a series of events and perceptions very well, right? And that's when you have unexpected new entrants. All right, or unexpected new maneuvers or unexpected new tactics. That's all I meant.
So yeah, I think we can wrap it up for today. Thank you to everyone who came to watch. And as Shermin was saying, it really would mean the world to us if you have the possibility to become a patron. Underneath the video, in the description below, you can find a link that will take you directly to our Patreon page. Of course, we thank everyone who sent super chats today, and of course, just everyone who came and joined this stream. This is a great image, by the way. This is, I lost my train of thought. In any case, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We have a new super chat from Joe Mama, by the way. So Karim, maybe can put that up.
Just something really quick. Tomorrow we will have Ali Jazini from Al Mayadeen. He's a good friend of the Cradles. He is a military journalist, and I am interviewing tomorrow one-on-one to break down the military aspects of this war, which can maybe explain to us novices a little bit about who's winning, who's losing, and why. So make sure to catch that tomorrow.
Exactly.
There's a super chat for you, Charmin, if you want to read it.
What does it say? Charmin feeling despair from what was happening in Gaza and Lebanon 2 years ago. Your Boiling Frog perspective gave me hope. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I have to credit our writer, Shivand Maharandraja. God, I always get that wrong. He actually wrote this amazing blog. I saw it. I was like, can you tighten it up a bit this way and that way, and we can publish in the Cradle. We did. And then it went viral. It was such a, sometimes you need a visual to explain a bigger picture. And I think the Boiling Frog thing did really well. we are planning for Boiling the Frog Part 2, but so much has happened. No, it is to show people the updates, because Boiling the Frog had many different elements to it, full spectrum against the Israelis, and it continues to happen, but nobody shines a light on it. So yes, we will bring that once things calm down a little bit.
In any case, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you tomorrow at the same time. And thank you, of course, to Karim, to Sharmeen as well. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Over 4 years in, and despite all the censorship, website attacks, and war across West Asia, The Cradle hit 1 million monthly readers in 2025. And we couldn't be more grateful. Up until this moment, you've had access to all our work for free. Over 30,000 articles, including investigations, analysis, interviews, news content, videos, podcasts, and more. All of this without paywalls, without harassing you and hunting you down for donations. But now it's do or die. December 31st, 2026 is the deadline for The Cradle to become completely reader funded, because that's the model all media should have. When readers pay for your content, it means media outlets live or die based on whether they're producing reliable, intellectually stimulating information analyses that simply isn't available elsewhere.
يعني يلا